Welcome everyone to our weekly Soul Changes Lives webinar. I am Debbie Perez Cockburn. I am your moderator for this discussion. Just want to remind everyone that no one on the panel is a doctor. We do not pretend to be doctors. We don't want to be doctors. We just want to share the best information we have with you on natural health, and that would be Soul Naturals. So we are going to do what we do every week. We're going to start with a testimonial. I have a recorded testimonial, which I think is kind of a cute one, so I hope everyone can hear it. And then we're going to have a great discussion with our good friend, one of the founders and the president of Soul Naturals, Mr. Greg Halliday, who will be with us. And then we'll just go ahead and wrap things up and do a little bit of housekeeping at the end and just show you a quick quick look at the new webpage so that you can actually log on now and see what your soul to soul qualifications are. So I want to show you that today. All righty. Well, let me just start by sharing our testimonial. And this comes to us from Florida. And I'm sorry, I don't have her name. She is a customer of my niece, Jessica Acevedo, who is a 3K in our group. And she has been a little busy bee sharing Soul Naturals all around Florida. And she works at a nursing home. And so I don't know if this is a relative of one of the nursing home residents, or if this is just one of her neighbors in Orlando, Florida. But I hope you can hear this today. And let me just hit play.
Let me tell you about the Solar Flex that I have purchased from a friend who's selling it. I was a little skeptical at first because I thought, being all natural, I didn't think that it was going to do anything. But I thought, okay, I'll give it a try. And here to find out, the shoulder pain that I've had, I put it on. I put it on at night on both shoulders and neck, because every time I get up in the morning, I was having these pains in my shoulder. Well, I tried over-the-counter things, but it's not too much like, a medicine cabinet. So I thought, no, this is so much better. It doesn't smell. It has a light scent. It's not greasy. And I enjoy getting up in the morning, not having those shoulder pains or neck pains. Then what happened? Along came the virus, and I got the shot. And I came home, and I thought, it's burning. So I thought, okay, I'll put it on that. Sure enough, the pain was going away. The burning would stop. And so I was putting it on maybe 2 times a day. And then my second shot, I did the same thing, and I had no problem with it. So I would advise anybody to at least try it. I enjoy it. And I just got another YouTube because this was all empty already. So take my advice, give it a try, and hope it works for you. And it's also good for any kind of insect bite. I found that out too. So give it a try. I'm sure you'll like it just as much as I do.
I just thought she was so adorable because, as most seniors, and I'm not here to criticize or complain anyone, everyone makes their own choices on the vaccine. But I thought she was just so cute when she said that she used it and she loved it because it was greaseless and had no odor. So it took care of the pain in her neck and in her shoulder. But then she remembered how much it helped that pain. And when she went and got the vaccine and got the pain and the burning from the vaccine, both vaccines, she used the SoulFlex to be able to overcome that. And so I just loved it. I just wanted to share that cute story with you today. I also got another testimonial from Salt Lake City. So I had a friend who had her one of her molars extracted, and it was an extremely large molar with huge roots. And so her dentist actually played around with it and couldn't do anything, sends her up to the oral surgeon that same day. She comes back and her face, and Greg, you know this girl, it's Eric Patterson's sister, Linda. So she comes back and her face is 3 times the size. So I felt really bad, and I let her go a day, and I said, let me know if I can help you with anything. Well, finally, I saw that she wasn't getting any better. She actually developed an infection, had to go back to the oral surgeon a few more times. I placed an order for her, sent it up to her. She started using the product on Saturday, and she said, I called her this morning to see how she was doing. So that was Saturday. She started applying the Soul Compass oils, the AC cream, taking the Soul Flex PI, and our 4 foundational drinks. And so I contacted her this morning and said, Linda, how are you feeling? I haven't seen you post anything. She goes, oh my gosh, you are the best, Debbie. She goes, the swelling has gone down so much, I almost look normal. And she said, and I can't believe how good I feel. And I love the way the AC cream, when I applied it to my face, just helped the pain in my jaw that I was feeling. And so I wanted to share those 2 testimonials with you today, because I so swear by Soul Naturals. I just love it. So that was our testimonial section. I would like to introduce our product topic today. I've asked Greg to talk to us about a specific component of cinnamate. And you'll know by the name that there's mate in there. So yerba mate is the adaptogen that I wanted us to focus on today. And I think what you're going to hear today, if you don't know much about yerba mate and how good it is for you, I think you will be surprised by what it can do for you. So most people confuse, and Greg's going to do a great job discussing this and telling us the difference. But I think a lot of people, when they think of yerba mate, immediately say, that's caffeine, that's a stimulant. I can't use that product because I'm pretty susceptible to that. Well, guess what? Science has proven that mateina is not caffeine. And so there's a huge difference. And so to tell us why this fabulous product can be used for anyone above the age of 1 year old to geriatric age, it can be used by anyone safely every day. I love this product. I think my days are not complete if I don't drink at least 2 cinnamates in the day, just as I'm studying and getting ready, because it is amazing for brain focus, but it's also I love what the box says, it is digestive energy. So we're going to talk about how this product, in particular yerba mate, how it can help and sustain the central nervous system without overstimulating your body, but actually helping the neural impulses that your body needs to make on certain organs so that they function properly. So to talk to us about that today is my good friend, Greg Halliday. Greg, thanks so much for being with us today.
Thank you, Deb, and hi, everybody. And I know a number of you will listen to the recording as well. I'm just so happy to be part of the education that Debbie puts out there every week. I think the world of Debbie, we've known each other for a long time. And I just get happy hearing the people's lives, like the 2 stories you told today, 2 experiences of people's lives who are better. And that's why we founded the company. This is the work we want to be engaged in. And I did bring a few slides. It's a little more technical today, the presentation, but I just feel like it's so worth it. And it's kind of what Debbie asked to get into a little bit. So I'm drawing from a presentation from Dr. Allison Caldwell Andrews. Most of you know her. If you're newer listening to this, she's our chief scientific advisor. She's a clinical psychologist, and she did her postdoc. She's also an herbalist. She did her postdoc at Yale and spent a number of years as faculty, research faculty. She actually adjudicated medical journals. She wrote in them as well, is very familiar with and steeped in the whole clinical trial and clinical study format, its strengths and weaknesses, and looking at that connection between emotion, mood with health, and much more, of course. But it's what drew us, I think, to each other as we were founding the company. We met, Dr. Allison and I, through my brother-in-law, who got his postdoctorate at Harvard. And it's funny to me, they both, those are some pretty highfalutin places, both very intelligent people, but super down to earth, and very much difference makers in the education that we have to offer. So this presentation is really technical, but It's worth it if you're watching this, grab some screenshots with your phone, because honestly, it's such good information. Why? Because that product that Debbie just showed, Cinemate, there's a reason we call it one of our 4 signature drinks, one of our 4 category leading drinks, because it's a staple. It's a daily staple. It was meant to be that way from the beginning. Cinemate is about managing our metabolism, our blood sugar, and our focus, and how mood plays into that, by really, really broad nutrition and wonderful plant chemicals that bring balance. And honestly, its overall effect is to just elevate, just to lift our mood, our metabolism, our energy, our digestion. You cannot change mood and metabolism without improving digestion. It doesn't happen. And Cinemate, that's its secret. Debbie kind of alluded to that. That's its secret. Well, one of the key ingredients in this is yerba mate, and that's the focus today. So this was a presentation. I'll just jump to some slides here, and I'm not going to do the whole presentation because it's too long. If you want the whole thing, I can always give the whole thing to Debbie, or you can find it, Debbie, in Dropbox. But and absolutely, it's yours to share and use. Dr. Allison does not mind that. Of course, it's why she produces these. But I'm going to jump into the middle of her presentation, because really the earlier part, she just kind of breaks down plant chemicals and the categories that they fall into. And here at this point, she gets a little more detail. And since I'm sort of assuming most listening, you kind of already are there on all of this, I didn't want to take you through the basics again. But jumping to yerba mate, we use something very different than the tea. Because when people are using the tea, they're using a dried, usually the leaf and the stem of this tree. It's a lot of times people think it's a shrub, but it can grow to be a 50-foot tree. So it's an evergreen tree from the holly family, grows throughout South America. The species that has been studied the most is the Paraguayan species. So it grows in Paraguay, not a super famous country down there between Brazil and Argentina. But Paraguay is about the size of California. It's not a small country. And this wonderful tree grows throughout and has been used for centuries, many centuries. There's written word about its uses. So it's much more complex. The reason that this slide here talks about it compared to, say, a pharmaceutical is Allison talks about things that give you energy and focus. Debbie referenced those. And we all turn to pharmaceutical or over the counter, but they're pharmaceuticals essentially. Why? Because we want the quick fix. You can actually achieve that naturally. This is a situation where the natural is every bit as quick, and instead it's safer, and it's a builder instead of something that trades away the future for the now, which happens with strong chemicals. So let's go into a little bit of yerba mate. They sometimes call it the liquid vegetable because it's drunk usually throughout many countries down there. Usually they drink it as a hot tea. I mentioned that it can grow very tall. It's very abundant in Paraguay. It's now planted in many countries. This is the way you'll see it being drunk in Chile and Argentina and Brazil. Paraguay, where I lived for a couple of years, which is where I first heard about it, they drink it cold. They call it tereré in Paraguay. Now, how is the yerba mate different in Cinemate? Well, I'll tell you the difference. We use the entire extract concentrated so that when you're dissolving it in your Cinemate powder, that also contains nopal cactus and thyme and 2 different types of cinnamon bark and a cinnamon oil, and also a banaba leaf extract. It has all these other things in it. You're actually consuming it, not just drinking a liquid that's steeped off the leaves. And so it's a big difference. You're getting a much more complete nutritional profile, even though the tea is very beneficial. This is even better to use an extract. Why? Well, because here are some examples of what it's full of. Dr. Allison likes to say it's full of the good stuff. Look at all the famous, if you're into plant compounds, look at all the famous plant compounds you can see here. Quercetin, a lot of studies on quercetin, hugely beneficial. Theobromine, Debbie talked about focus, okay, and improving digestion, both. Theobromines right smack in the middle of that conversation. Theophylline, look at the minerals, manganese, zinc, calcium, iron, selenium, phosphorus, magnesium. A lot of times I'll have people ask me about what products are high in magnesium, because there's been some studies, especially with this recent pandemic and how magnesium could be beneficial. Well, we have a number of products with very high magnesium levels. This is one of the very best, Cinnamate. The vitamins A, C, and look at all the B vitamins that are in yerba mate. Not to mention beta carotene, chlorophyll, flavonols, polyphenols, tannins, a huge number of amino acids. So this is all part of yerba mate. It's incredibly loaded. So let's just jump through a few slides, some examples of why this is such a wonderful daily. Okay, yerba mate's got a bunch of xanthines in them. What are they? They're alkaloids that dilate the bronchioles, that help better respiration. They alert the central nervous system. They stimulate better oxygenation through better respiration. So one of the real stories of yerba mate that doesn't always get told is what it does for our lungs and our blood, and therefore oxygenation of cells. It's because of the xanthines in it. Now there are two groups of xanthines in yerba mate. The other group is what are called the methylated xanthines. Caffeine's in this group, theobromine's in this group, and if I'm pronouncing it right, theophylline or phylline, I'm not sure quite how it's pronounced. Notice what these do. This group is your heart rate increaser and your digestive process stimulant to get the body to produce hydrochloric acid, pepsin, those things that digest proteins, which incidentally also aid in cell repair, and they relax your smooth muscles. So having a good, when the trains come in, we always talk about digestion and elimination as trains coming in. A train needs to leave when a train comes in. Smooth muscle that is relaxed does its job better. And I like the way Debbie talks about it, because it's not only relaxing, it's improving neuron or neural communication. Better, more balanced movement of smooth muscle improves all those functions. So all three of these known xanthines are in yerba mate. Not one of them, all of them. Okay, why does that make a difference? We're going to come back to that. So different types of xanthines have a similar structure, and it's not that like they all do the same thing. They actually do widely different things, though they're complementary, in that they all relax smooth muscle. Caffeine, on the other hand, though it's a famous xanthine, has some strong side effects, which over time weaken the body and organs. So what's different about yerba mate? Well, here's Dr. Mowry, director of Mountain West Institute of Herbal Science. Here's what he says. Turns out yerba mate is not identical to I've got to move to caffeine. It differs from caffeine in some rather dramatic ways. Some members of the scientific community still resort to calling matin a South American term for caffeine, like as if it's a Spanish word, or to maintaining imperfect knowledge of the falseness of the assertion that the two substances, matin and caffeine, are so similar chemically that they must have the same properties. But slowly they are being forced to acknowledge the distinction between matin and caffeine. So matin is the word scientists have given, and there's still debate and fighting over it, to the caffeine-like xanthine that is in yerba mate. And because it is not the same molecularly, and even though it's very, very similar, its differences result in some very key benefits. So what's the difference? Well, because yerba mate is used multiple times a day throughout South America, it has been for centuries. We use it in Cinnamate. And it does stimulate the brain. It brings better focus. All sort of cognitive functions are more clear and better functioning. However, it's not addicting a bit. And that's something I can also attest to, having lived down there, drank it several times a day as it was a custom with friends. and then coming home and not having any kind of a side effect whatsoever. However, I just noticed an improvement in health when that's part of the nutrition that I receive. And since we began it in Solle, a big change I've noticed myself, as many people have. So what's the difference between Matin and caffeine? Well, it's not addictive. It's not habituating. And in fact, one of its key evidences is cravings reduce. There are fewer cravings when this is something, when Matin, which is part of Yerba Mate, it's really the whole plant, is part of your nutrition. Here's another key factor. Caffeine does affect sleep negatively, always has, in different ways with different people, but it does affect sleep. Matin does not. Yerba Mate does not. In fact, it improves it. Third point, a muscle performance is improved with Matin because there is no cliff at the end of the stimulation that you see with caffeine, where things heighten and then they weaken even to a lower level than they were in the beginning. You don't have any of that with Matin. Fourth thing on this slide, many people are sensitive to caffeine and they can use Yerba Mate if they're getting a true source. Now, I throw that in there because like all herbs, there are people that look for and they extract only some components and they'll call it natural. Part of the reason Matin is what it is because it's combined with other things, this molecule. It's not just alone. And that is why it's so balanced. So here's the next thing, because this is another part of this group of energy givers. Okay, we'll call them that. Theobromine. That's also in Yerba Mate. How does it compare to caffeine? When I'm talking about caffeine, I'm talking about synthetic and caffeine from things like guarana and other natural sources that are pure caffeine and they're concentrated for just the caffeine. That's very common, called natural. However, they're not buffered, is the way I would describe them. How do they compare to, say, theobromine, which is in this same group of xanthines in Yerba Mate? Well, theobromine actually has a longer lasting stimulation, a smoother effect. And it's a vasodilator, relaxes smooth muscles, improves circulation and heart health versus constricting, causing more hypertension and problems with blood pressure. It's in fact the opposite that you see with caffeine while getting the desired effects. Here's the reason why, in my opinion. This part is my opinion, and I think Dr. Allison shares this opinion. It's because Yerba Mate is so loaded with wonderful balanced chemical compounds. Look at that number, almost 200 of them, 196. Now, 144 of those are found in green tea. That's hence, you can see why green tea is so popular. And yet, Yerba Mate, in many studies, looking at just certain famous group of components, which are your polyphenols, another very important group of natural compounds in plants, Yerba Mate outperformed all the rest. This wonderful evergreen tree. Here's a summary of the study. Polyphenol compounds. Look how much higher Yerba Mate is than green tea or black tea. So if you're reaching for the tea, the black tea, the green tea, because you're trying to get more of what Debbie said, why would you not reach for the Yerba Mate and get that without any of those negatives of the caffeine, a different form of the caffeine or Matin, and all these other components in greater numbers and more balance make Yerba Mate, in our view, an adaptogen. And so there are lots of studies. These are just some of them, okay? Better mental effects than coffee. Caffeine in coffee and cola. Actually, studies have shown it'll impair memory over time. Impairs sleep and causes anxiety over time. Yerba Mate enhances memory, does not cause anxiety. In fact, I know people, Debbie does as well, who will say, one of our good friends has said, from when she started drinking Yerba Mate in Cinemate, the war in her brain stopped that she always had felt as a child. And that's a little bit of the ADD, ADHD, if you want. I really hate labels, but people tend to go there. And here she's finding that those things are solved, not worsened, which they often are with caffeine. So here's another one, immunity. Here's, again, these groups, polyphenols, flavonoids, saponins, all of them in Yerba Mate. Look what they do for our immunity.
protect cells clearly, fight allergens, viruses, abnormal cells, and just in general stimulate the immune system. So yerba mate has been studied in the food processing industry as a preservative because microbes won't grow in it. Isn't that interesting? It is much more than a, boy, that's the best preservative you'd ever get in something if you used it as a preservative because it's so highly nutritious. I kind of chuckle when I think about a preservative. You got to, whatever food you're trying to preserve with it, how about you just use this, drink this? It's going to have much more in it. Don't try to preserve your other thing. So there's a huge difference between looking at constituents and whole plant functions, which is how we look at it at Solle, versus pulling one thing out or another out. You can see all these famous constituents, and too often we pull them out. So let's just flip through to end here. Just a couple of examples of this, okay? Here, these are all from Dr. Allison. These are blood sugar managing, okay? So this is what they showed with yerba mate. It decreased the weight in mice, blood sugar levels, and insulin resistance. Okay, so that was one study. It inhibited the formation of issues that lead to these same issues with blood sugar, difficulty in blood sugar management. Here's a study that shows how the blood and blood lipids and cholesterols are improved by simply bringing mate tea, and they use the tea. We are using a full extract, so you're getting even more. Another study in 2011, these are both 2011 and 2012, showed pre-diabetic and type 2 diabetes patients found significantly lower LDLs and triglycerides with yerba mate in their diet. Here's another study that showed it protects DNA. Here's another that showed that it's anti-inflammatory. And look at this, anti-mutagenic, protecting cellular integrity. Here's another one she throws in. Allison loves to throw in the odd study, just where they've been added as this is kind of a preservative. They used them, added them to sausages, believe it or not. Okay, other benefits of yerba mate. It protects the liver. It helps regulate blood pressure, aids in weight reduction, anti-mutagenic. These are all summary statements from studies. You can see the references there. So Allison loves to say this, you know, best time to plant an oak tree is 20 years ago, but the second best time is today, meaning when you want to do something about your health, you've got to nourish it, nourish the roots like a tree and nourish it daily. Today's the second best day of your life. Best day would have been the past. Well, we could all say that. Second best day, today. Let's start doing it today. So yerba mate is quite fantastic. And I haven't even really gone into half of the story, but there is a lot of science now. We're finally coming around here in the US. This is still fairly unknown. I still think just really almost fantastically or almost amazingly, it is so under the radar here. It's just not common knowledge. Maybe if we continue to do what we do at Solle, everyone will know about this because kids can really benefit from this. In Argentina, the government has actually now issued a recommendation for daily nutrition of yerba mate, school-age kids. There are so many benefits developmentally as children are growing. So we love this formula. Cinnamate is what was one of the first two products developed for a reason. It is so central and so core, and you can see why it has an incredibly broad nutritional base. That product, that Cinnamate is a much more expensive multivitamin than anything you could find in the market times 10, because yerba mate itself has 200 components. Nopal has, I don't even know, but 100 and something is incredibly nutritious. Nopal as well, which is in the formula. And you've also got thyme, and you've got banana leaf and cinnamon. And we add a little bit of honey powder to round out that yerba mate earthiness. But it really is a great daily, and hopefully we can spread that word and make a difference.
Well, and it's so high in vitamins and minerals. So when you look at 24 vitamins known, you don't really need to take a vitamin tablet if you're drinking Cinnamate, and then factor in, I think it's 15 amino acids. So
Yeah.
doing all of your muscular base because that's the base for the structural system, our amino acids. So when Greg says it's great for children and how the Argentine government is actually promoting it, there's the science to back it. Just like longevity, it's a product that everyone can use and should use on a daily basis, especially now we're still looking and talking about fighting pandemic and, you know, just because of its antimicrobial characteristics alone make it amazing. I mean, the fact that you can share in Argentina, it's called it's not a plastic straw, but the bombilla, because there's a bulb at the bottom. People share it, and that's how the drink is passed around. Everybody drinks from the same metal straw. But you know, think about it. If you are taking a watered down infusion of tea and you're still protected because cold stores would pass quickly like weeds, right? But you don't see that.
Oh, I did it for 2 years, Debbie.
Yeah.
So in Paraguay, you know, of course, they drank it cold, but they drank the same way through a bombilla. And there's usually 5 or 6 of us in the room,
Mhm.
and everyone takes their turn. And sometimes maybe twice in a visit. And I might be doing that in, like, as we visited homes and things, it might be 3 or 4 different times a day.
Yeah.
Multiply the number of different people who are, and none of us didn't get sick. I mean, in fact, I called it the refreshing remedy. That was the name in Spanish of Yerba.
I love that. And the reason I said children from the age of 1 and above, and I'm glad that Greg mentioned the honey powder that is used in the cinnamate. That's what gives it that really yummy flavor. I love cinnamon. I would take cinnamon straight any day and not add honey. But I know some parents, you know, need to know, is this safe to use for my child? Yes, it's safe. But as long as the child is a year old or above, then, you know, they can tolerate honey. Honey is the one thing that kids can't have when they're very, very young. And so because there's honey powder, that's the only reason I say that. But it's an amazing product. I hope that you, if this was something that you had heard 8 years ago, you were delighted to hear again. I love the science behind each one of the components of our products at Soul Naturals. I firmly stand behind this product. I can tell you that when I was doing the active translation, and mind you, I am an independent distributor. I am not an employee of Soul, but I helped Soul with their Spanish translation of their website and all of their printed materials in the very early stages of Soul. I was staying up at night. I was working a few part-time jobs. I was just starting my Soul business, and I was doing translating at night for Soul. And I remember taking a cup of cinnamate at 6 p.m. when I would sit at the computer and work straight through until midnight, not feeling jittery, but feeling very focused and very refreshed, and then being able to turn around and go to bed. And I'd had several packets of cinnamate during the day. We only had those 2 drinks when I started, was the Soul Vital and the cinnamate. And so I can tell you, I never lost sleep using cinnamate. To this day, I can probably still take a nice hot cup of cinnamate with some almond milk at about 7 or 8 p.m. and go to bed at 10 just fine. So it really does help your mental acuity. And that's what I love about this product. That's why I say, you know, if you're looking at the 4-month program to better health, you know, cinnamate is going to be one of the boxes that is repeated throughout those 4 months. Because if you're thinking about doing a cleanse, it is antimicrobial. It will knock out parasites. It will help against fighting infections because it helps the immune system and how it functions. And so I just love it. Greg, thanks so much. I always appreciate hearing you. And I love that you love helping us out.
You bet, Deb. My pleasure. Good to see everybody. See you soon.
Thanks, Greg. All righty then. Well, let's just go ahead and close this up. We have been going a little bit over half an hour now. Lisa, would you like to see how to get on and see your Soul to Soul qualifications? If that's something you'd like to see, then instead of doing a Soul business class, since we still haven't figured out a good time period for everyone. And that's something I can work on recording for you this week and just send it out before Monday. And then I will show you around the new web page. Does that sound cool?
Yeah, that sounds great. I'm trying
Perfect.
to keep up. We're in the process of moving. I know you know the feeling. So it's down to the wire right now. He said, she said, and it's all getting ready to happen. So
Well,
I'm just like,
wow.
oh, yeah,
For
wow
being
is
here.
even, yeah, wow. Well, I'm cluing in and catching up and doing that to where I'm getting ready to start the major packing, because it was probably, we didn't know and all of this, and I didn't want to do too much. And so now it's like, get the pots and pans out. Here we go.
Yeah.
And get rid
It's
of,
true.
get rid of.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Well, I just wanted to finish up our conversation today by saying this month, the company has been focusing on the Soul Fit Challenge. If you are
Yeah.
doing the Soul Fit Challenge and you are using those products, you know that Cinemate is part of the program. And I hope that after today's discussion, you understand why it was included.
Yeah.
Save those cravings. B, it just really helps balance the blood sugar, your circulation. Think of the lift category, red, anything that
Mhm.
helps the central nervous system and the blood. So if
Right.
it's helping the blood, it helps the liver. If it helps the lungs, it's helping the blood. And so you want that. And I just love this product, and I just want to
Yeah.
all for watching every week and coming and joining us every week and sharing these videos.
Thank you. I really appreciate it. And I
No.
did clue in on that part that you talked about parasites, because I'm all the time like, we got to get rid of parasites. And then you were like, you know, putting it together of the antimicrobial and
Yeah.
getting rid of parasites. And I'm like, yay.
Well, you know, once you attack that, really, when you think about it, there's 4 things that keep your body sick, and obesity is an imbalance. It's not that you eat too much. Obesity comes from different things, right? So you can have a lot of systemic inflammation in the body. You can have parasites that are causing inflammation. You can have pathogens that cause inflammation, not just to the bronchioles, but to the on a cellular level. And so
Right.
if you think about it, the first thing is imbalance in your body system functioning, right? So if we're talking about the Soul Fit Challenge, think about the 4 things that keep you not feeling well, or keep your body from progressing to good health. It would be, you know, number 1, the imbalances that your body goes through, because there are systems that work harder than others, because for years, your body has been trying to tell you that there's an issue, but we don't recognize the signs. Some people call those symptoms. I love that Greg talked about the tree. Some people like the leaves and some of the branches, but forget about the trunk and the root. When we're talking about good health or reaching an optimal weight or going back to our optimal weight, we need to get to the root of the problem. Cinemate is going to be a key contributor to that, right? Because we want to overcome imbalances. The second thing that keeps us ill are toxins. Toxins in the environment, toxins in the food that we eat, toxins in the air. People love to use perfume and perfumed products. All of those things are toxic, right? Lotions and potions, I call them. You know, those are things and toxicity builds up in the body, and that causes imbalances, right? So we're seeing this little cycle. The third thing that keeps us ill can be pathogens, parasites, all of these things that impede the lymphatic system from functioning properly. And so that's the third thing. And finally, the fourth thing that keeps us from reaching our optimal health and weight is lack of good nutrition, or not being able to activate our cells. And so that's why I believe in the 4-month program so much. And that's why I think that you can add anything that you want, but try the 4-month program, do that, and make sure that you're feeling well, so that then you can add other supplementation and eat other foods, and you will eventually see that body change and move towards a good balanced health. So I love you guys. I am so grateful to be able to promote Soul, to help you promote Soul, to just give you a little bit of that, whatever you needed to share a story and say, this product is really great because it's going to help you with digestion, or it's going to help your energy, or it will help your focus. Or right now we're all looking for ways to keep the immune system working properly. Did you know that yerba mate has antimicrobial characteristics to it? So does cinnamon, by the way. And so when you look at the 5 main ingredients in Cinnamate, it is an amazing product. You will see it in the Immune Shield package. You will see it in the Defense Shield package. You will see it in many packages that deal with circulation, cleaning out the lymphatic system, wiping out pathogens. It's going to be an active part of it. So I hope you'll keep that in mind. Just remember, there is honey powder. So for children under the age of 1, not recommended, but anyone over the age of 1, highly recommended. Thanks so much, you guys. Love you. Look forward to seeing you next week. Bye, Miss Sherry.